Okie dokie, welcome back ladies and gentlemen. In this video, we're going to be going over my personal reinvestment strategy for clothing brand owners. We're going to be getting in deep today, all right? And if you have no attention span, don't care about your business and want to go watch brain rot, then I suggest that you click off this video. But if you do want to make more money with your clothing brand, you want to learn, you want to grow your skills as a business owner, I suggest you lock in because this video will probably have more value for the current brand owners than any other YouTube video I've ever posted. So the reason I'm making this video today is because whenever I started making some actual money with my clothing brand, I did not know how to reinvest. I spent my money on all the wrong things. I remember the first time I did a drop that did like 30K, I think I spent $15,000 on a motorcycle. All right. And obviously I shouldn't have done that. I didn't have growth in mind. And one thing that you need to understand as you start growing this clothing brand dream is that if you do not invest back into your company continually, you will stay the same, right? So for me, I spent $15,000 on a motorcycle, maybe $5,000 on operating costs, maybe, another $5,000 I set aside for taxes or some shit, paid my rent, stuff like that. And then I had very little left, which means that our content production was the same for the drop after. And that means that our operations, content, creative direction, designs, supply chain all stayed the same. Nothing got an upgrade, which means the drop after suffered, right? And I thought the drop after was going to grow because I just thought, that's naturally how it happens. It does not happen like that. You have to reinvest, and you have to reinvest strategically. Otherwise, your brand will not grow. You will see stagnancy first, and then you will see atrophy in your brand's revenue. And when you see atrophy, your motivation goes down, your proof of concept goes down, your audience belief goes down, everything goes down, and then your brand dies. All right. So if you want to ensure that your brand does not die, lock in with me on this video. Again, we're going to get deep, lots and lots and lots of value here. This is going to be good. So in this video, we're going to be getting into reinvestment after your first drop. Like I mentioned before, the strategic framework. All right. And the mistake that kills 90% of clothing brands is, drum roll, cash flow management and allocation. All right. So cash flow management and supply chain are the two things to break once you start actually getting, orders and revenue from your clothing brand. All right. So let's say you just had a successful drop. So maybe you do 5K, 10K, 15K, whatever it is. Now you've got some money in the bank. All right. This is what we like to see. First of all, congratulations for getting to this level. Many do not ever reach this point. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down my exact reinvestment framework so that you do not kill your clothing brand. So part one, the reinvestment hierarchy framework. Okay. And this is a foundation problem. So number one, most brands reinvest randomly without strategy. Okay. Most of you guys are just being like, this guy over here bought a new camera, or this guy over here, he hired a graphic designer, or this guy over here, he bought a studio. Let me just do that. All right. And if you're not educated on this, and if you don't have a strategy, you're going to make those stupid cherry-picked investments. And that's where you get too much of your money tied up over here. You make a bad investment. You get stuck in a lease that sucks you dry for the next year. You get a shitty deal with a manufacturer that sucks you dry for the next 6 months. All right. You need to be very, very, very careful, and you need a strategy, which is why I'm making this video. Now, the next thing that I see people doing is prioritizing visible improvements over systematic growth. Okay. This is a business at the end of the day. Yes, a clothing brand is a creative endeavor. I love it. It fulfills me very creatively, and it's just amazing, right? But at the end of the day, this is a business. And if you want this business to succeed, you need to treat it like a business owner, which means systems are important. Data is important. Structure is important. Teams are important. All right. Strategy is important. This isn't just about going and showing your art to the world and then making money. Okay. This is a lot deeper. Okay. The last problem with most people's reinvestment strategy is that they do not understand which investments compound and which investments are just unnecessary expenses. All right. Money that you do not need to be spending. Okay. And I've spent a lot of money that I should not have spent, which is why I feel I'm very, very qualified to do this, and why it's almost my obligation to go over this and teach you guys so that you guys don't have to go through the same bullshit that I've been going through for years learning all of this, because there was nobody who could make a video like this for me back in the day. So that is why we're making this video today. We're going to be addressing these problems and fixing these problems. All right. So let's get into the strategic reinvestment pyramid. I created this as a sort of guide for you guys to understand kind of like what you need to be investing in at each level. All right. So we're going to start with level 1. All right. Community and data infrastructure. This is kind of like foundations. Okay. And I have a lot of these blacked out. You can kind of see through, but whatever. Right. So the first one that you need to invest in as a starting brand owner, if you have, very little in the bank, very little in the tank, you need to start by investing into your community platforms. That's going to be platforms like TikTok, Instagram, Discord, right? And most of these investments are going to be time investments, but some of them do involve monetary extension, right? For example, going to New York Fashion Week, or going, and doing a photo shoot, or going on a trip that you can document and, show for your brand. The next one is going to be analytics and tracking systems, okay? So this is going to be very simple. It's going to be your Shopify, and it's going to be whatever SMS system that you guys want to set up, email and SMS system. I prefer Klaviyo, as Klaviyo gives a lot of really, really good segmentation and a lot of really good useful data for you to truly understand your audience so that you can cater to them more and make data-backed decisions, data-backed investments, and grow your business, systematically, like a business ownership. All right. And then the third thing is going to be, piggybacking off of that, your email and SMS marketing tools, right? So these are your foundations, right? And the reason being is because community platforms, this is where your customers will be housed, all right? This is where you will speak to them. This is going to be your brand's ecosystem, okay? And the analytics and tracking systems, that's going to be primarily Shopify and Klaviyo, are going to be where you learn about your customers, all right? You can get data from social media. You can see, what are people commenting? What are people liking more than this, right? But Shopify is going to give you actual like FBI level data in addition to Klaviyo on where your customers live, what they like, what sizes they're buying, what colors they're buying, what garments they find interest in, what garments they don't find interest in, how fast certain things sell through, right? Your average order value. They're going to give you accurate measurements for growth. So if you don't have any of these in place, then you need to worry about these first. This is level 1, all right? Because if you don't have a community and data infrastructure, you don't know if you're growing or if you're not, all right? You're just blindly guessing. So level 2 is going to be product development. So number 1, you want to invest in research and development. So research and development, R&D, is going to be research into garments, research into your niche, right? Purchasing reference points, hunting reference points. For me, I like going on Essence and going to flea markets and going to rag houses and going to vintage markets and just hunting. Okay, hunting and cherry picking things that I like, right? Things that I like that I can take elements from, maybe a wash, maybe a distressing pattern, maybe a graphic, maybe a tag, maybe a fit, maybe a pattern. All right, research and development, that is a very, very, very wise investment for you in the product development end of things, because if you do not have products to reference, right, graphics to reference, garments to reference, patterns to reference, then you're essentially creating these products blindly. All right. You're making products just guessing on the size charts and guessing on the patterns and guessing on the measurements, of the sleeves and guessing on the neck or whatever it is, right? You need to figure that out first. Okay. So research and development is going to be a very, very wise investment at level 2. The next one is going to be quality improvements. This is going to be fabric upgrades, hardware upgrades, garment detail upgrades, right? Like your woven tag upgrades, your custom buttons upgrades, right? Like things that make your garments special, that bring your garments from here in terms of quality to here. And this is really, really, really important before you invest in ads or anything else, because having a good product at the end of the day is kind of a prerequisite to any level of success in this, in terms of long-term success, at least. So quality improvements are going to be very, very needed. And the last thing in level 2 is going to be new designs and samples. All right. You need new products. Okay. One product isn't going to be, your entire year. You need to be making new products. You need to be developing new products, sampling new products, seeing what you like. All right. Because at the end of the day, you should be hunting that product that's going to take you from like kind of where I'm at to where like Amiri's at. Right. And the way that they got to that point is by making new garments and making new garments. And then eventually they hit the Amiri jeans. All right. The Amiri jeans blew up and now they're here. Because I believe like 60% of their cash flow comes from the Amiri jeans, right? Which the owner doesn't even like. But regardless, it doesn't matter, because having that hero product is what takes you from this level to this level. Okay, so you should be hunting it. The way that you do that is by making new garments. The way that you learn how to make better clothing and learn what products are going to appeal to your audience, what you can sell better than this, right? What's going to sell more, what's going to sell less, what you should be making in the future is by making new products. So that's going to be a very, very wise investment at level 2. At level 3, we're going to get into operational systems, okay? Specifically hiring specific people with specific skills, all right? Skills that you do not possess or skills that you should not be putting into practice because there's better things for you to be doing. We're going to get into customer service tools. Customer service tools are really, really, really important, especially once you start getting those higher order volumes, or if you have slower lead times and you're not shipping stuff out immediately, or if your stuff's really exclusive, so the customers are acting quickly when they're purchasing, which causes a lot of order issues. Oh, I put the wrong address. Oh, I bought the wrong size, yada, yada, yada. So a couple of good inventory management softwares are going to be Stocky by Shopify. Katana is also really good. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what software you're using as long as you have a way to organize everything. You can use Google Sheets, you can use Notion, you can use the Notes app in your phone, or you could just stick to Shopify's inventory tracking system. It is very good. We used that for a long time. So now we're going to get into level 4. All right, marketing amplification. Okay, so that's going to be influencer partnerships. Okay, it's going to be PR campaigns and paid advertising. Okay, I would recommend that you guys don't start with all of this shit at the bottom like a lot of people do. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make is starting with paid advertising. All right, they invest their first dollars into paid advertising, and at the end of the day, you don't know how to make good content when you first start. I would argue that it takes people around a year of practicing this every single day to get actually good at making content. And if you're not good at organic content, and your paid ads will not perform either, which means you are burning ads. All right, so this is going to be later on down the line. I don't really run ads. We do some retargeting through hot times of the year, but at the end of the day, my goal is strictly organic. All right, I'm not here to scale my brand to 1 million followers in 2 months. Okay, I'm here to scale my brand to 1 million die-hard fans over the course of 5 years. Okay, that's kind of my whole goal with this. So I'm not a huge ads guy. I am big on retargeting. I am big on follow-ups and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, this is a method that a lot of you guys can use once you get to a level where you've created a lot of organic content. You have a community, all right? You have your content pillars. You have a content engine system, right? PR campaigns, obviously going to be really huge. Influencer marketing is absolutely fucking massive and detrimental to anybody trying to market anything online these days. And a lot of these companies are going absolutely nuts with PR campaigns and influencer partnerships, specifically these gifting campaigns. Like I've seen brands that are doing literally gifting hundreds of products out to influencers every single month that have like crazy outbound systems that are sending emails and messages to management teams, act like the influencer individuals, like just going nuts, absolutely nuts with PR, simply just because it's such an easy thing, right? It doesn't cost much to throw an influencer, a shirt or a pair of pants or a product or a pair of sunglasses, all right? It's literally whatever your cogs are plus shipping, and at the end of the day, that could potentially result, if it results in one sale, you've made your money back and then some, all right? So PR campaigns, influencer partnerships, and paid advertising are going to be huge. And then we get to level 5, all right? And this is going to be luxury and aesthetics. And a lot of you guys can invest in this earlier on, but this is probably like the least important one in my opinion, especially like, earlier on. All right. So like an office space and showroom, a lot of you guys are not going to want to spend $2,000 a month on a studio your first month with your brand or your first drop with your brand. All right. I didn't invest in a studio or office space until I was 1.5 years in. All right. I had already done a matter of like 6 figures in 30 minutes with my brand. And that was 6 months before I invested in my office and studio space, which I now have in Miami, and I love it. It's fucking absolutely amazing, but do not jump the gun with this, because if you do, you will be stuck making a monthly investment in something that does not fucking help you. All right. So the second hit is going to be high-end photo shoots. You guys have seen me do a lot of high-end photo shoots. That is not something that is super, super required, especially in the very beginning. A lot of you guys don't need to be getting FOMO and then investing $20,000 into photo shoots. I did that and I don't regret it, but it is probably something that you can wait on. All right. And the last thing is going to be premium packaging. This is something that can probably be moved down that pyramid. And a lot of people would be like, oh, well, like that should be at like level 2, right? And yes, it can be at level 2. So don't freak out on me. I just think for a lot of you guys, the actual product that you're offering is going to come way before the packaging of the product. If you're offering a shitty product, all right, in good packaging, the product is still a shitty product. All right. The product is not going to get user generated traffic. All right. And user generated traffic is the most valuable form of traffic. That means this guy buys a shirt. I'm wearing this shirt. I like this shirt. I tell my friend, yo, bro, check this shirt out. My friend's like, yo, that shirt's fucking sick. Where did you get it? Oh, I got it from this brand. All right. That's user generated traffic. And that's going to be very, very, very necessary for your brand to actually grow in the long run. So I just think that the actual product optimization should be prioritized over premium packaging. But again, that's level 5. It could be lower, but for this video, we're going to put it in level 5. So this is my strategic reinvestment pyramid. Okay. Now, the key principle with this pyramid is to never move to the next level until the foundation below is solid. All right. Because if we try and build a pyramid and we get lazy with level 1, we get lazy with level 2, and then we throw a shit ton of money into level 3. And once we get to level 4, we have too much weight because we didn't invest in level 1 and 2. Our pyramid crumbles, and now we're back to square one. The brand dies. Again, reinvestment is so fucking important, which is why I'm making this video. Okay. So never move to the next level until the foundation below is solid. Don't get magpie syndrome, FOMO, grass is greener on the other side type of shit, and invest in shit that you don't need to be investing in. All right. There will be time. There's always time. So now we're going to get into part 2, the 5 to 15K reinvestment phase. Okay. This is going to be primarily geared around building the foundation. All right. So the priority number 1 is to lock in your manufacturing relationship. If you're going to be operating long term, then you need to develop a strong relationship with your manufacturer. All right. So the biggest thing here is securing a manufacturer with a larger order, right? When it comes to developing manufacturer relationships, the more money you pay them, the more they like you, the better they treat you, right? The more deals they cut you, the less that you have to pay them to get a return on investment. All right. So you want to start building that relationships, which means that you want to start placing larger purchase orders, but you need to also negotiate better pricing through volume as you're doing this. All right. So don't just place these big POs. You need to kind of like use that as your leverage so that you can get better prices per unit with, again, the increased volume. All right. And the next thing you need to do is you need to kind of start planning ahead for future drops. All right. You need to start ordering samples and saying, hey, I want to buy this in this month or next month or the month after or in 2 months, right? Let's go ahead and start sampling this. Let's work on this project. All right. And what that does is it signals to your supplier that you are wanting to work with them long term, that you liked the first goods that you got and that you want to secure them as a partner. All right. At the end of the day, guys, your manufacturer should be treated as a partner, specifically your primary manufacturer, right? So for me, that's going to be my cotton goods manufacturer. I have a lot of different suppliers that I work with, but my cotton goods manufacturers are the ones that I really, really do work to build the best relationships with. I'm talking to them every day. I'm ordering samples for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the line. I'm talking about my plans. I'm talking about our growth plans. I'm really like treating them as a partner. All right. And that relationship is going to pay dividends to your business because you are going to basically get more clothes for less money. All right. And that's going to be the goal. Now, another reason why this matters is because manufacturing delays will kill your momentum. All right. So if you do not have a good supply chain locked in first, you will drown. Okay. And at the end of the day, again, like I said in the beginning of this video, once you start doing well with your clothing brand, 2 things break. Always. 2 things always break. One is going to be your cash flow management, and the other is going to be your supply chain, which is what we just went over. Okay. So this is very, very important. Do not discount that. See this in advance. I remember I was talking to a brand owner a long time ago that's way ahead of me whenever I first started making a little bit of money. And he was like, oh, see, you're making money. Like, keep in mind, there's 2 things you need to think about whenever you're doing this stuff. Number 1 is going to be managing your cash flow, making sure that your cash allocations are solid, that you know what you're investing in. And number two is going to be your supply chain. All right. Supply chains break so easily. There's always an issue with shipping, with lead time. There's always a delay from your manufacturer. There's always a fuck up in the shipping invoice. There's always something that goes wrong. Okay. There's always an ETA that needs to be backed up. And if you do not have this locked in, if you do not have communication with your manufacturers locked in, if you do not have task management systems locked in, then you will fail. All right, your shit will get fucked up. And if you guys do want me to do a video on my task management system with my manufacturer, just to let me know. That is some pretty high level shit, so it may not apply to many people, but if that is something you'd be interested in, let me know. Because for us, we're producing, I think we have like 48 items currently in development. All right. And for those of you who are making like 5, 10, 15, 20 items at one time, like developing them, this is something to go ahead and get in practice of, because eventually you will really need it. So priority number 2 is going to be community infrastructure, just like we talked about in the pyramid graphic. And the first one I want to cover is professional email marketing platform, specifically Klaviyo. Email and SMS, number one, they're your direct line of communication with your customers. If you are watching this video, you probably already know this. Okay, I'm not going to go into the whys of why it's important, but one thing I will mention is that Klaviyo specifically has really awesome segmentation and great data pools that you can learn a lot about your customers from. So I would really consider investing in Klaviyo and really getting familiar with the platform, or bringing somebody on your team that is super familiar with the platform, because you can just learn so much about your customer base just from like looking through Klaviyo segmentation and stuff. So next thing is going to be your SMS marketing setup, which is kind of the same shit. All right. Email, SMS, same thing, same platform. Okay. And then a community platform. All right. You can use Discord, you can use Telegram, you can use a group chat on IG. I have a buddy who does that and he performs really well with it. You can do Instagram, you can do a broadcast channel. There's a million different ways you can do this, but you need to be kind of like investing in a structured kind of arena for your community, whether that's your Instagram comments, your DMs, right? A group chat, a broadcast channel, some form of just like, like group of people that can interact, right? And be kind of like with one another in the same way. Okay. Community is just massively important. You guys already know this. This is like that's like level 1 fucking knowledge for clothing brand shit. So yeah, you guys should already know it. If you don't, then take notes there silently. So in my first drop, I think I did around $8,000. I immediately invested in Klaviyo. All right. And I knew this was going to be an important investment because I saw that the whims of the algorithm were so inconsistent, and that my communication via algorithm, via social media with my audience was so inconsistent that I needed to invest in a way to kind of communicate with them efficiently, in a way that I knew that if I needed to send a message to my customers, every single one of them are going to get it. All right. So I invested about $600 into Klaviyo campaigns, and that investment made me an extra $6,289 in my next drop just from better SMS sequences. All right. So I got a 10x ROI on that investment into Klaviyo. All right. And I would highly suggest that you do this if you haven't already. So priority 3 is going to be your creative engine system. All right. And when I say creative engine system, I mean in terms of a brand. All right. You have two ends of things. You have the numbers, metrics, data, a back end, fulfillment, bullshit end of things. And then you have the creative end of things. All right. This is going to be your content, your designs, your ad creatives, right? Like things like that. That's the creative part. All right. And building a good creative engine system is going to be really important. I could go on for days about this. This is my shit. I would consider myself very well versed and practiced on building creative engine systems, just because I've built so many content systems for myself, for YouTube, for Instagram, for short form. I have a large team that I work with that does this. I'm really big on creative engine systems. So the first kind of like important part of this that I think a lot of you guys should invest in is a consistent designer on retainer. Okay, on salary, right? I pay my lead designer, I think I pay him about $4,000 a month. And he has set deliverables that he has to hit. And what's really, really good about paying a designer, the same designer consistently, is that they learn more and more about the brand. All right. If you're still paying this designer for this and this designer for this and that designer for this, all right, you're investing in multiple different designers. You need to just find one to invest in, because the more familiar they get with your brand, all right, the more they understand, okay, this guy keeps asking me to do this. He likes this, all right, and this brand, as I'm looking at it, this is more appreciated than this, all right. They start to learn more of what works for the brand. And the more that they know about what works for the brand, the better they are going to create. All right. And you want your designer to kind of fall in love with your brand alongside you. All right. My designer, this is my designer right here, actually. He had cold feet for a while. He was just kind of like a designer that was hired for a while, right? He wasn't super in love with the brand, but we kept him on. All right. We kept him on and we put him on retainer, and I put my faith in this guy. And over the course of like 4, 5, 6 months, I started to see that he was just like falling in love with the brand. Like he was enjoying the process. He wanted to, throw me ideas and bring new ideas to the table. He enjoyed working on it. All right. And that is so powerful, especially, your designer kind of being in your circle, right? Like coming to your events. Like here, he's literally at like a big, like $30,000 photo shoot that we did, working on a pair of denim for the actual shoot. And that was very inspiring for him. And he was like, he truly fell in love with it. So I think that investing in a designer on retainer is really, really important. I've seen a lot of brands do this and have the designer as a part of like the content. And it just performs really well. So the next thing that I would invest in is consistent talent and shooters. Okay. This is my roommate, Joey. He was actually the one who started shooting for me initially back when I first moved to California, I think in 2020. He actually doesn't shoot anymore, but for the first like 6 or so months, he was shooting every piece of content that we made for the brand. All right. And him doing this, again, this is the same thing with the designer. The more consistently that you work with somebody, the more they start to fall in love with it, the more they start to become attached to it, the more they start to want to put, energy outside of what they're being paid for into it. All right. And also the more they understand, okay, this is what you want. This is what you like. This is what you don't like. As a founder, as a creative director, like they know you better. And that is so important. And that goes the same with talent. All right. With talent, whenever you start working with models and stuff on a more consistent basis, instead of trying to use a new model every single time you do a campaign or you want to shoot a product, right? Using the same kind of like deck of models, not only does it build your world in kind of like a creative direction sense, it starts building like characters, you know what I'm saying, that people recognize. It's like, oh, it's that girl. I've seen that girl in this shoot before, right? Oh, that's Caleb. Oh, that's Royjar. Oh, that's Chevy, right? Like I have kind of a deck of models that I think fit my brand, and I use them very, very consistently. And what it does is it starts making these people, again, just more invested in the brand. They start loving being a part of it. They start being like, oh, shoot, well, like, gotta shoot with Marsh. Like, I know I want to see this guy. They're like dope. Like, and we're going to go eat afterwards and we're going to go bowling later, right? It's going to be a fun day. And I really think that having those relationships that are built over time and then building those relationships with your talent is super important. So talent and shooters being consistent is definitely a key part of your creative engine system. Again, like I can't express enough, like that is so fucking important. Please do not overlook this. This may sound very, chill or whatever, but very, very important. Now, the third thing I would land on is just basic content equipment upgrades. This is pretty self-explanatory. Go from shooting everything on an iPhone to shooting some stuff on a camera or shooting some stuff in a studio instead of in your living room. You know what I'm saying? So let's talk about the multiplier effect of this content engine system. Okay. So the multiplier effect is better content is going to equal better engagement, and better engagement is going to equal higher conversion rates. More money. All right, that's important. Now we're going to talk about what not to spend on yet. All right. Number one, fancy packaging. All right. Your customers care about the product before they care about the packaging. All right. You are going to get user generated traffic from the product, not the packaging. Okay. The packaging is great. Having fancy packaging is cool and all, but it's less important than the product. All right. Next is going to be large inventory orders. All right. You don't know your demand patterns yet. You don't know what products you sell well, what products products, you don't sell well, especially if you're just starting to make money with your clothing brand and you're looking for a good reinvestment strategy. And the next thing is going to be expensive photo shoots. All right, I've done all the expensive photo shoots, and at the end of the day, an expensive photo shoot is great. It's cool to document. It's cool to say that you did it. It's cool to kind of psyop yourself and to be like, oh shit, I got a big brand. But at the end of the day, you don't always need to invest in this shit, okay? And the reason being is because your community wants authenticity over perfection, all right? At the end of the day, authenticity wins. Authenticity beats a big high budget photo shoot all day. So if you can find a way to be authentic and find a way to, show your clothes still aesthetically, all right, in a tasteful way, then you're going to win. All right, so part 3, we're going to be getting into the 15 to 50K reinvestment phase. So that's if you're making $15,000 to $50,000 with your drops. Okay, scaling systems. Now, number 1, inventory intelligence. This is really, really important. As I said earlier, the first 2 things to break once you start making real money are going to be cash flow management and supply chain. And this is a part of supply chain. All right, so the first thing we want to do is you want to analyze first the drop data. Okay, you need to identify the winners. This is just like making content, right? You post 10 videos, you look at those 10 videos. Of those 10 videos, you see 2 performance outliers. You see, oh shit, those 2 videos did better. Okay, why did they do better? How much better did they do? These numbers are really, really, really important, okay? Because once you identify the winners, you can order 1, 2, 3x quantity of those proven pieces, and then you can make more money and make more wiser, better financial decisions with less risk because you know what performs well and what doesn't, which is why it's so important at the foundational level to invest in those systems. All right, Shopify and your Klaviyo, your data collection systems, okay? Because at the end of the day, like those will give you the blueprint for how you need to spend your money at that higher level. And regarding inventory intelligence, the next thing you're going to want to do is test 2 to 3 new designs with smaller quantities. All right. So first, analyze your drop data to identify your winners. Second, order more of the shit that's winning. And third, experiment a little so that you can find new winners. All right. So basically, in short, you want to take a data-driven approach. That's going to mean working with about 70% winners and 30% experimental shits. So team building, this one's a good one. A lot of you guys want to be one-man armies, solo warriors, but if you try to do that, you're not getting past that like 30 to 50K range, and your shit's going to crash and burn. You're going to turn into a fucking maniac and you're going to lose your brand. All right, so you need to get it through your thick skull right now that you will need a team if you want to succeed. Listen to anybody, any successful brand owner ever. If they didn't have their team, they would be a wreck, and their brand would be too. So in regards to team building, before we get into the ways that you can build your team, I like to operate under the principle of what I call weak point recruiting. All right. And weak point recruiting is essentially just identifying your weaknesses as a founder, creative director, designer, whatever the fuck you want to call yourself, and identifying your strengths. All right. Doubling down on your strengths, spending more time on your strengths, and then hiring out for your weak points. Because at the end of the day, if you are not a good designer and you have money to spend, don't waste your time trying to become a good designer. Hire somebody who is a good designer, who has experience to do that part for you, because that's a weak point. All right. As a CEO, as a business owner, you should be hiring to maximize your weak points, because everything needs to be touched on. All right. If you're a good designer, but you're shitty with the inventory, you're shitty with fulfillment, you're shitty with business, you're shitty with data, your business is going to fail. All right. So identify what you're good at, what you're not good at, and then hire for what you're not good at. All right. Let's get into it. All right. So the first thing that you can invest in is an operations manager for fulfillment. All right. You should not be packing orders and shit at this level. Now, this was the first thing that I hired. All right. Because as soon as I did, my revenue doubled. And the reason being is because I was focused on high level strategy, high level shit instead of packing boxes. Okay. People get paid $7 an hour to pack boxes. If you could pay somebody $7 an hour to pack your boxes, okay, like you shouldn't be doing it, because as a CEO, as an owner, as a founder, you should be doing more higher level stuff that somebody who packs boxes cannot do. All right. And I know it's fun. It's good combos. It's good vibes. All right. If you have the time, do it. But personally, me, I like to maximize my time. I like to be doing the highest level shit that I can at all times and hiring and delegating the rest. So I would suggest doing that. Okay. And it's also cool because other people like doing it and they like the opportunity. Okay. So the next thing is going to be a customer service specialist. All right. My customer service specialist, his name is Connor. He's super, super great. You need to hire somebody to manage this because otherwise you will be spending a lot of time answering emails. And I would argue that this should be a later investment. All right. Because at the end of the day, you want good customer feedback. You want to know what your customers are saying. You want to know, as a founder, as a creative director, as a designer, whatever you would call yourself, what your customers like, what your customers don't like, the issues that your customers are having, a way that you can improve their experience, at an executive level. All right. So that's going to be a good investment, but shouldn't be kind of like the first investment. Just wanted to throw that in there. Now, social media content creator. This is going to be really, really important. Now, I have not hired somebody to post my social media content for me. I do all of that myself, but that's because I've been making content for 5 years. I'm the most experienced on our team, and that is what I truly excel in. But a lot of you guys are not going to have that same level of experience that I am. So I'm not going to tell you that you should be doing your own social media. All right. If you're not good at social media, then find somebody who is good at social media or who seems like they'd be good at social media and hire them to do it instead. Because at the end of the day, I know everybody wants to be the spotlight. Everybody wants to take credit for their own brand. But at the end of the day, if you are not good at something and it is detrimental for your brand success, and content is, because content is marketing and marketing is half of your business, then you need to delegate it. All right. Find somebody who will excel in that field. Okay. Now, last thing is going to be a full-time designer. We touched on this already, but a full-time designer is going to be super, super detrimental to the success of your brand and definitely something you should invest in. Now, let's get into marketing automation. Okay, marketing automation is basically your indirect inputs, like the stuff that happens really like without you like actively doing it, automated stuff, shit like that. All right, the first one's going to be email sequences. So the reason that email sequences are really, really impactful and should not be overlooked in regards to running your brand is because they bring attention, awareness, and feedback to you. All right. This is a form of communication with your buyer. Yes, we have Instagram DMs. Yes, we have SMS. Yes, we have our Discord, whatever. All right. But email is an additional channel that can provide you with a lot of shit that you would not otherwise get. And it's automated. You're not sending an individual email to every single fucking customer. All right. You can't do that on IG. You can't do that on text. You can't on SMS. All right. So SMS is just as good as email. All right. But email, you can get a lot more artistic with. You can put images on it. You can put a lot more links on it. All right. You can include a lot more information on email. So again, shouldn't be overlooked. Now, the next thing is going to be obviously SMS automation flows. That's going to be huge. You can't put much in the message, but you can send that message very, very effectively, because if people get an SMS message, it's going to pop up on their notifications just like a text from their mom would. All right. So definitely something that should not be ignored. And then last of all, it's going to be retargeting pixel, getting that set up and, doing retargeting campaigns. Retargeting is really, really good to bring awareness to your products during the time of need, right? Like while your site's open or whenever you have a lot of product available or whenever you need to sell through, a certain product. All right. Understanding, and getting that set up is going to be really, really impactful. Again, I'm not going to speak too much on ads because I do not like using ads because I'm a big, big, big organic and community guy, but retargeting is good. Definitely going to be something that I will be utilizing in, kind of hotter points of the year in terms of just like, market condition for e-commerce. That's going to be like November, October, December, probably going to run some ads, but yes, getting that set up could be really, really huge for your brand. And again, we're in the realm of marketing automation. Okay. And the compound effect of that is that automated systems work 24/7 to convert browsers into buyers. All right. So everything I just explained, the reason it's important is because they work 24/7 outside of you to convert browsers into buyers. Super black and white. All right. Now, quality improvements. Quality improvements are going to be detrimental for your brand. If you can make your product better, you should. All right. It doesn't matter how much it costs. There's a lot of unnecessary costs. Like I said before, like the packaging and stuff is a little bit less necessary than the actual like garment and product quality, but product quality, massively important, very detrimental, something that should not be overlooked. First thing you can do is upgrade your fabric and hardware. This should be based on consumer feedback. All right. So it shouldn't be right away. It should be, hey, we make something, we drop something, we get feedback. What do people like? What do people not like? Double down on what people like and remove or switch what people didn't like. All right. I did this with my pattern for my bottoms. A lot of people were like, oh, like, the jeans are too long, or like I had to cut the jeans at the bottom, or the waist is too tight. All right. Take that feedback, make adjustments to the fabric, hardware. And for us, it was the pattern. All right. Which is kind of like the next thing I would, improve on. The way that you do this is just by like changing the pattern, sampling again. All right. Changing the pattern, sampling again, dropping again, collecting more feedback. All right. And the last thing is going to be enhancing product photography for better conversion. Now, this kind of seems like an obvious one. But you'd be really, really surprised at what putting more effort into your product photography will do for your brand. A lot of subconscious effects at play here. All right. But it comes down to positioning, association, perception. All right. This is really, really, really important. I'm not going to go super, super deep into this because otherwise then we'll just get into a whole psychological rabbit hole. But really, really important. Definitely should not be overlooked. All right, so part 4, you've done 50K plus. Now you are a market outlier. Now you are seeking market domination, okay? Because there's very, 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 very few people who reach 50K in revenue with their brand, all right? So if you're there, you're one of the few. This is where you should be landing, right here, market domination, okay? So we're going to be going into advanced operations, product line extensions, market expansion, and brand ecosystem development. All right, so let's start with the advanced operations, okay? So advanced analytics and business intelligence tools. This is going to be really, really important if you want to know what tools you can invest in. Literally just ChatGPT that shit. It'll recommend a bunch. There's a bunch of different softwares, a bunch of different, extensions and stuff that you can use. Definitely something I would recommend investing in sooner rather than later. When it comes to international shipping, that can get expensive real quick. So you're going to want to optimize how your manufacturer is shipping stuff to you sooner rather than later. A lot of guys go from air shipments to boat shipments. If you can do this, typically boat shipments, by sea take a little bit longer. But if you can do this, it's much cheaper and it's a way to kind of like bring your operating costs down a bit. The next thing is going to be warehouse and fulfillment optimization. All right. So for me, I hired a 3PL so that they can store, pack, and ship my items a lot faster. They have a team behind it. They keep track of your inventory. This is going to be really important. You can do this by yourself, right? By just opening your own warehouse. Consider doing this for a long time as well. Or you can just hire a 3PL for a pretty good price. All right. So next, we're going to get into product line extensions. So this is going to be just bringing your product to more people, right? Increasing your acquisition. The best way to do this is by paying for events where you can seed products to other people, or paying to become a part of seeding opportunities for bigger events like Coachella. Coachella has a lot of opportunities for brands to invest, pay like X amount to send a box of their clothing to an influencer event or a seating event where they kind of just give out free shit to influencers, right? You can host your own events. I'm actually doing one myself at the end of this month. On the 27th, I'm hosting kind of like an influencer, high profiles party. All right. It's a private party where we're just going to go. We're going to seed a bunch of stuff to a bunch of influencers, make connections, build relationships, that kind of thing. Definitely worth investing into. Will bring so many more eyeballs to your clothing, your content, and, kind of your brand in general. The next thing is going to be seasonal collections and limited editions. All right. So for us, that's going to be collections that we release like on a monthly basis, as well as like limited edition items, hero items, dream items, whatever you want to do. Just like expand kind of what you're making. Don't just make like your one thing that works. All right. Try a bunch of different shit. All right. Because the more stuff you try, the more people you're going to reach. At the end of the day, the more SKUs you have, the more potential appeal that you have to the people who visit your website. So that's going to be a really good investment. And you can do this by expanding into complementary product categories. Basically creating products, developing products that complement your key products. For us, this is going to be like accessories, household items, things like that. All right. Now we're going to get into market expansion, which which kind of goes hand in hand with what we just covered. First, influencer partnerships and campaigns. All right. Paying influencers to be a part of what you're doing brings notoriety to your brand, to the people seeing it. They're like, oh my gosh, I recognize this guy, right? We've done this before. The first time we did this was by bringing Cole Steiner into one of our campaigns and shooting him as like one of the main characters. And it brought a lot of notoriety to the brand. The main thing to consider here is to try and do this as lean as possible. Don't, pay an influencer a shit ton of money just to be a part of your brand. Try and get it for as cheap as possible. Accommodate them, right? But don't like go crazy on this, especially in the beginning before you have proof of concept that an influencer's audience is actually going to be high converting for you. All right. So the next thing you can do is paid advertisement across whatever platform you want to. All right. Sometimes this is going to be Spark ads on TikTok or, Meta ads or Pinterest ads. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. I'm not going to get super deep into that. That's a whole video in and of itself. And the last thing is going to be PR and media outreach. All right. So PR is going to be super important, paying to be a part of groups or go to be in rooms where you can get a hold of managers, right? Artist managers, people like stylists and stuff. That's really important. So going to New York Fashion Week, going to as many events as you possibly can, going and meeting these people. Those are very wise investments, because one person, one celebrity that you can get your clothing on could contribute to millions of eyeballs on your product. All right. It could contribute to an ad creative that you can spend money on. And then all of a sudden, everybody's seeing Drake wear your clothing and they're like, oh my gosh, like Drake's wearing this brand. Like, let me check this brand out. Right. So definitely a good investment. And the idea here is to build a scale strategy that leverages your proven product market fit to reach new audiences. All right. So you have proof of concept of this one product that's reaching these people in a very valuable way. Now let's expand upon that. Let's do that at scale. Okay. So now, last group we're going to go over in this section is going to be brand and ecosystem development. Okay, so it's going to be professional brand, photo shoots, and video content. Very easiest, obvious land. Showroom or pop-up experiences, going to New York Fashion Week, going to Paris Fashion Week, going and being a part of Complex Con, right? Throwing events. This month we're doing, like I said, that seating event, the party for influencers. Next month, we're going to go to Complex Con and basically just bring our world building to more eyeballs. That's like really huge. Another one is going to be premium packaging and a really cool unboxing experience. We actually made this investment in the last few months, spent a lot of time on our packaging, our unboxing, everything that goes into unboxing, whether that's like scent, the gifts and extras that you throw in there, your packaging, custom packaging, just like anything that makes the unboxing experience more shareable, more something that gives them dopamine, something that makes them excited, something they open up and is unexpected. It's like, oh my gosh, like this is so sick. It's like a hit of dopamine that makes the product seem like just better in their mind. And it's also just like a memory thing, right? If you can like make the unboxing a memorable experience, that's really huge. And the reason I'm going over this now and not in like the part 1 or part 2 is because now you have the customer base to justify premium brand investments. All right. These are premium brand investments. At the end of the day, pop-ups, professional photo shoots, premium packaging, those are premium brand investments. And you need the customer base first to justify making those investments in those like higher tier, premium tier, like things that, you can bring to your audience. Okay. If you want to do a pop-up, right, but you have 60 followers on your brands page, like maybe you're not ready for that yet. But, once you've done like 10K plus in revenue, 30K plus in revenue, 50K plus in revenue, now you have proof of concept. All right. People are going to come to your pop-ups. People are going to come to your events. You have enough notoriety to start doing these like, these excess things and making these investments that bring your brand, to that next level. Now, this is a very important stage for your brand. And I've just highlighted like 20 things that you can invest in. And I know it's probably a little bit overwhelming. There's a lot more to invest in than you think there is. You can spend way more money than you think you can. If somebody gave me $100,000 right now, I'd probably have it spent only on brand stuff in like 2 weeks. It would take that long because there's so many different things that you can invest in. We've invested in pretty much all of these things as of now, and we're just working on scaling those investments. But yeah, Going to be really, really important. Now, part 5, we're going to be going over some reinvestment mistakes that will kill your growth. I've seen these happen time and time again. And not only have I seen other people do it, but I've made these mistakes myself. So I know the consequences to those mistakes, which is why we're getting into these. Okay. So mistake number 1 is going to be inventory gambling. And that's going to be primarily ordering huge quantities of untested designs. I've seen so many people do this. They have one good drop, right? And then they buy something in large quantities because they think that, oh, well, like I had success with this product, so I'm going to have success with every product. And then they buy large quantities of that. They don't sell it. And then they're out a shit ton of money. Okay. And the cost of that is lots of money tied up in dead inventory. All right. I remember in my first year of my clothing brand, I had a one good drop where I sold like a lot of these sweatpants. And then I was like, oh shit, well, now I'm going to do like this cool hoodie. Right. And I made the hoodie and I thought it was so fucking sick. And then I bought 300 of those hoodies. I tried to sell them for like $100 a piece, and it was just one hoodie. All right. And I think I sold 120 of them and had the rest sitting. And I was like, oh my God, like what the fuck am I going to do with all these 200 other hoodies? And those hoodies are actually still sitting in my warehouse in California. So yeah, basically the solution to this is testing small and then scaling your proven winners. Okay. Don't buy a shit ton of inventory of shit that you don't have tested. All right. That's why testing is so important. Okay. In the beginning, your goal when scaling shouldn't be to increase revenue. It should be to increase data. Because at the end of the day, in the beginning, whenever you're working on scaling your brand, all right, your priority isn't increasing revenue. It's increasing data. All right. You shouldn't be trying to get more money. You should be trying to get more data, because with more data, you can make better financial decisions and you'll lose less money and you'll make decisions that will make you more money, not only in the long run, but also short term. All right. So the next thing we're going to go into is vanity investments. So for example, spending a shit ton of money on photo shoots before building your systems. If you're spending a ton of money on an investment that's like, oh, this looks cool and it's going to be a cool experience, I'm not saying it's the end of the world, but I am saying there are better things to invest in beforehand. All right. And I know this because I was spending like $20,000, $30,000 on photo shoots before I had good foundational systems, which led us to failure and caused me a lot of issues, and then didn't leave me much money to solve those issues because I spent so much fucking money on the production and the cool stuff that looks good. All right. This is why we're calling them vanity investments. All right. And the cost of that is what I just said. All right. You have crazy content that doesn't convert because you lack infrastructure and you lack foundational support. Okay. And the solution to this is going to be basically building the machine before you make it pretty. Okay. That one concept going to save you a shit ton of money. Okay. Now, mistake number 3 is going to be random marketing spend. Okay. Throwing money at ads with no direction or plan. All right. This is a huge mistake I see a ton of people make. They start throwing money into ads while they have a shitty product. They have a shitty backend. And in addition to that, they don't even really know how to make good content yet. So they're spending money on shit that isn't even going to convert. All right. You're paying money to have a shitty creative shown to a bunch of people. But at the end of the day, a shitty creative doesn't convert. It doesn't matter how many eyeballs you show it to. You're paying X amount of money per eyeball your product is shown to. All right. So if your product is shown to them in a bad way, you're going to be paying a lot of money to show your product to a lot of eyeballs to make just a few sales. Okay. And obviously, like, that's the cost. Okay. $5,000 to $10,000 in ad investments. And that's the most common one that I've seen is like $2,000 to $10,000 with zero idea of a return. And typically you lose money. I've seen even experienced brand owners make this mistake. Okay. So you need to master organic growth and email marketing first. That is my advice to you as somebody who has spent money on ads, lost money on ads, and made money on ads. Okay. If you can master organic growth and email marketing first, not only are you mastering your messaging, you're mastering your product display, you're mastering your narrative display, you're mastering your world building, and you're mastering creating something that people want to be a part of, right? So the ad is top of funnel, right? The ad gets their attention, right? But if you don't have something in place to keep their attention and a place for that they want to move into, that they want to live after seeing that ad, then you're wasting your money. All right. So master organic growth first and email marketing, because if you cannot make a good video that performs well organically, it will not perform well with ad spend, period. Now, mistake number 4 is going to be neglecting your community. I've seen this a lot, and that's basically focusing on acquiring new customers instead of nurturing existing ones. Okay, you're focused on the next customer. All right, but at the end of the day, it's way harder to get 1,000 new customers every month than it is to get 1,000 customers 1 month and then keep those people buying every single month from you. Because in a way, it kind of costs money or time to get new customers. But if you could just focus on nailing your community nurturement, nailing your product delivery, nailing your unboxing experience, nailing your communication, nailing your world building, your creative direction, you can keep those customers buying from you. All right. And I have like a crazy customer return rate. I think we're sitting at like a 60% customer return rate on average right now, which is crazy. That's insane. That's insane. So obviously the cost of neglecting your community is lowering the lifetime value of your customers and upping acquisition costs. Just like I said a second ago. All right. It costs money and time to get new customers. All right. So if you want to spend less money on getting new customers, do your best to nurture your current community and to make them diehard fans that are buying from you every single month. And you're going to make a lot more money in the long run. All right. And basically the solution to this is just focusing on 80% existing customers and then focusing on 20% new customer acquisition. All right. So basically 80% of your effort and your time should be spent on nurturing your current customers. 20% should be on finding new customers. Okay. And again, I'm a big believer in community. So maybe that percentage is a little crazy for some of you e-commerce guys that don't care about community, but I care about community. So this is my approach. All right. And now mistake number 5 is going to be the biggest one that I see, especially from brand owners who are documenting. Okay, like posting on social media and stuff. And this is going to be personal spending confusion. And the problem is basically taking profits as personal income instead of reinvesting for growth. All right. Again, like I said earlier, whenever I had like a 30K drop, I spent 15,000 of it on a motorcycle. And that was unwise. Like, yes, I love my motorcycle and I love bikes. And I don't think it was an unwise investment in the long run. But I also think that I could have spent that $15,000 on optimizing my systems that would have made me more money my next drop. And instead, I spent it on a motorcycle and I had the joy of the motorcycle, but my next drop performed poorly after that first drop that hit like 30K, like I said. All right. So, and here's a quick reality check. All right. Every dollar that you take out is a dollar that could have made you 5 more. Because think about it like this. All right. The investment into your business means that you make more money from the business. All right. So instead of making that 15K and taking home that 15K, I could have spent that 15K on the brand, waited to take profits, done 70K for my next drop, and then maybe taken 15K. And it cost me way less. All right. And maybe I would have still had 30 to invest in my next drop or new systems or new hires or new team members or whatever, right? So basically, these 5 mistakes are the most common ones that I see, specifically that last one. Inventory gambling, this one will fuck you. Vanity investments, this one's like not the biggest deal, but definitely something I would keep an eye on. Random marketing spend, this one's huge. This is a brand killer. Neglecting your community, again, a brand killer in the long run. I made this mistake. Don't make the same mistake as me. And I also made this mistake. So these are all mistakes that I have made that cost me a shit ton of money. So if you don't make these mistakes, you'll lose a lot less money than I did. Okay, part 6, we're going to get into the ROI measurement framework. All right, this is going to be basically how to track your reinvestment success. Now, there's going to be a few things that are going to be key performance indicators here for growth, and that's going to be 1, lowering your customer acquisition cost. So let's say before reinvestment, your calculated cost of acquisition is $45 a customer. All right. And then after a system investment, maybe it's at $25 a customer, which is 100% doable. And the ROI is a fat reduction in acquisition costs. All right. Now, the next one's going to be average order value, your AOV. This is a very, very common one. All right. This is basically like how much a customer will typically spend per order. Okay. And this is obviously going to be tracked through Shopify. And before, maybe it's $85. All right. And then after improving quality improvements, your SKU decks, product availability, stuff like that, you can, maybe you'll see something like 20%. And now, boom, 41% increase in revenue per transaction. All right. So you just need to be tracking the before and afters. Okay. Tracking your AOV, your cost of acquisition, and your LTV. All right. This is your customer's lifetime value. Okay. And maybe before implementing SMS and email, that shit sits at 95. Maybe the lifetime value of your customer is $95. You'll never get more than $95. And then afterwards, maybe it's 180. You've just now doubled your ROI. All right. That's an 89% increase in customer value. Okay. That means each customer is worth way more. So these are going to be the main metrics that you're going to use to track your reinvestment: LTV, AOV, and cost of acquisition. The customer acquisition cost, same shit. CPA, cost per whatever. CPA, CAC, same shit. Those three metrics are going to be what you want to keep an eye on. Now let's go over reinvestment success metrics. All right. Number one is going to be revenue growth rate. How much your total revenue grows. All right. It should increase by 50 to 100% after each reinvestment cycle. That's optimistic, but it's doable. All right. Number two is going to be profit margin improvement. You're going to see a lot of margin improvements after making investments on understanding what you should invest in. Oh, I should buy this product in bulk in large amounts. Oh, I shouldn't buy this product in bulk in large amounts. Oh, if I buy it from this supplier, it's cheaper. Oh, if I use this shipping option, it's cheaper. Oh, if I invest in this guy to overview my data and give me metric reports, it's cheaper, right? And that should increase by 5 to 15% through operational efficiency. And the third success metric that we want to look at is the customer retention rate, all right? And that should improve by 20 to 30% through better systems. Now, obviously, all of these percentages are, estimates, kind of just like long balls, right? But this is kind of like a lot of what we've seen through our reinvestment strategy and the results that we've gotten. And all of these systems and reinvestments that we've talked about are basically going to cause just a massive increase in pretty much everything. All right. Your performance, your customers, your sales, your AOV, your cost of acquisition, like everything is going to improve with these investments. So now part 7, final part. We are going to get into the 90-day reinvestment action plan. All right. And this is if you're already making, money with your brand and you're already like on the way there. So this is going to be our timeline from 0 to 90 days. Now let's talk about the first 30 days. This is going to be the foundation phase. Okay. So first, you're going to analyze your first drop's performance data. Like we mentioned, you're going to secure a supply chain for your next 2 drops. Like we also mentioned, you're going to set up email marketing automation, and you're going to hire your first operations team member, whether that's a fulfillment guy, a guy to manage the Shopify, a guy to manage content on social media, a full-time designer, whatever that may be. Your second month is going to be your systems phase. All right. This is where you're going to implement inventory management systems. You're going to create a content production schedule. You're going to launch customer feedback collection systems, and you are going to begin testing new product designs. All right. Very, very important. Those will be the second 30 days. And granted, this is like pretty aggressive investment, but this is kind of like what you should strive for at least. And a lot of this will take longer than normal. If it does take longer than this 90-day period we're talking about, that is totally okay. You move at your own pace. You should reinvest at your own pace. Now, I am an aggressive scaler. All right. Whenever I have the funds to invest into my business, I'm going to do it, even if it puts me at 0, because I want the best. I want to be the best, to be the top performer, to get to GOAT status as fast as humanly possible, even if that puts me at risk. Now, a lot of you guys who maybe haven't been doing business for very long are going to play it safe. You're going to wait until you have a bunch of money in the bank account. You're going to store that away, and you're going to play it safe. All right. You're going to build the business slow. And there's nothing wrong with building the business slow. But again, I am an aggressive scaler. I take risks. I do dumb shit, and typically the dumb shit works out for me. So I'm going to keep doing it. Right. In this last 30 days, this is going to be the scale phase. Okay. You're going to launch your second drop with improved systems. Okay. Then you're going to analyze the performance of this drop versus your first drop. Right? Your first drop, kind of like investing from that first 30-day period. And then you're going to plan your third drop based on the data insights that you pulled, right? What worked? What investments were wise? What investments weren't wise? What investments really gave you guys a good ROI? What success metrics did you see rise, right? Did your AOV rise? Did your LTV rise? Did your cost per acquisition lower, right? Things like that. And then you're also going to begin community expansion and incentives, right? This is going to be like events, pop-ups, community kind of like gatherings where you go, and all support a certain cause that you have presented, or maybe you as a brand step up and do something that supports the community that you're trying to reach, right? Like start getting out of the box, thinking creative about this shit. Okay. And that, my good people, is the complete system that all successful brand owners follow to reinvest and scale, or at least that's what I've done and what brands that I have worked with have done. But before we go, if you skip these steps, the steps that I have just painted out for you, if you prioritize flash over foundation. And if you treat your profits like personal income, you are guaranteed to fail. Okay. And I'm telling you this as kind of like the big brother that's been there. Okay. Obviously, I'm not making bajillions and bajillions every month with my brand. Okay. But I'm doing pretty good. And I've been through this whole thing. I've been through this. We have invested in every single thing that I have painted out in this video. There's not a single thing that I've put in this video that I haven't invested in. And I'm telling you how this shit works. Okay. So please follow my advice. I've been there. I've lost money. I made this video so that you guys don't have to do the same. Now, if you have watched all the way through this video, it's been a long one. We got deep, but if you're still here, that tells me that you are serious about building your brand. And if that's you, I've got something super special for you. I'm not here to sell you on anything. I'm actually doing a 3-day live masterclass on October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on YouTube. This will not be public. This will be private. So if you do want to secure your spot to that, click in the link below and it'll take you to our invite form. And I would really encourage you guys to show up to that. And I would consider this probably one of the best education opportunities for any clothing brand owner, whether you're starting a brand or like most of you guys are, you're already in the ring. We're going to be going over softwares, systems, identity development, ideology, psychological sales tactics, growth hacks, creative hacks. We are going to be getting deep. This is some sauce that is basically not available pretty much anywhere on the internet. So I would highly encourage you guys to show up if you do want to go. Again, the only way to attend is by securing your spot via the link in the description. I hope to see you guys all there. This is going to be fun. And let me know if you guys want me to do more videos like this, these in-depth breakdowns of specific systems and just parts of the business that aren't really, taught anywhere else on the internet. Thank you guys so much for watching. This one's been fun. We got deep on this one. This was a fun board to make. I'm glad I made it. Mapping it out helps me, kind of understand the concepts even better myself. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.